When you first start looking for a camera, it starts with what camera does your favorite YouTuber use? What camera does your favorite photographer use? What camera does your favorite cinematographer use? And at each level, the cost is different. Your favorite YouTuber probably just uses the first camera that they ever bought. The first camera that was around their house can be a DSLR, it can be a mirrorless, and your favorite photographer probably uses some form of film camera, and your favorite DOP probably uses an Alexa Mini or a Sony Venus. When you look at the cost of the Sony Venus or an Alexa Mini, you're like, all right, cool, that will never happen. But to know that one of my favorite DOPs used a camera that I own, the Sony Fx3, is something that changed everything. In the movie The Creator, they used the Sony Fx3 for almost all the shots in the
the Sony Fx3, for example, this amazing prosumer camera. I'm about to use that on a film I'm shooting in Thailand.
It's so good. It's ridiculous.
I'm about to shoot the entire film on this camera. And it's so ridiculous that it's so small, and it's such high ISO for such a small camera. So, whilst that camera may not be appropriate for something else that I'm doing, camera companies should look at that and say, well, if Sony's doing that with an FX3, surely we can do that with our camera. And we saw that with Red.
That film, and they did it because of its versatility, because it's a small camera. It has a big ISO dynamic range. You go from 800 to like 12,000 or even more with the type of equipment that they'll have on set. That's something that I feel is a game changer for all of us. For me, hearing of that news, it gave me hope, but it also let me know that I have the tool. If this tool is good enough to shoot a Hollywood blockbuster movie, it's good enough for me to shoot the type of movies that I want to shoot. I have a friend recently who told me to sell my FX3 because it's like, you can have that money back. But my response was, I'll never do that. Never. Especially now, knowing what this camera can do and having seen the trailer of this movie, having seen the type of shots that they go with this movie in the trailer of The Creator, it only gives me hope. This is the guy who made Dune. This is the guy who's made some crazy type of movies, and to see what he's been able to achieve, granted with more resources than you and I will have, granted with more stuff, but if the core thing that he has is the FX3, the rest of it we can figure it out. The rest of it is just something to add on top of what you already have. I think for the first time we can safely say gear doesn't matter. For the first time you can make that argument, but also you now know that you don't need much. All you need is a good camera, a good lens, and a great story, and the rest is up to you how you're going to achieve this. I don't know why he used this camera. The main thing that we have is on a podcast when he mentioned it, that he was just using it for the versatility of the camera. But also you have to understand, for me, the way I've understood cinematography to this day is it's all about capturing light. That's why people say cameras don't matter, but sometimes cameras do, because there's different things such as codecs, different things such as the sensor and how sensitive it is to what makes the camera matter in terms of from a technical side of things. That's where you start to realize the differences. But when it comes to capturing a picture, gear doesn't really matter. What matters the most is the story, because you can have $100,000 camera, but if you have a bad story, then that $100,000 camera is shite. We've all seen Cats, I haven't watched it, but we've all heard of that movie, and you can probably guess that they had state-of-the-art equipment to shoot that, but they had a terrible story. So you want to be careful with that. But the reason I'm making this video is to say, pick up your camera, write a story, go do something. That's the only way this world works. That's the only way we move forward and we progress. I'm super excited to see this movie when it comes out. I haven't been to the theater this year. This might be the first time that I go, because I want to see what a Sony Fx3 picture looks like on a big screen. Now, granted, I know there's a lot of editing that's going in. Greg Fraser likes to do this thing where he shoots in digital, prints to film, and takes it back to digital to create that look for himself, like what they did in the Batman. And I don't know if they did the same thing for this movie, but regardless, this thing started out on an FX3. This camera is phenomenal. Most of my short films that I've done have been on my FX3. The lenses that I used, if you watch my recent one, I used a Cine lens, and I had more challenges because with Cine lenses you don't have autofocus, so I had focus issues on those, on some of the shots. But either way, they came out beautiful. This camera is phenomenal. It's now time to just learn to know what we're doing with it.